Hey Summoners, so recently Flarvain and I had received some requests for how to get better in League. We were throwing ideas around and then I said, hey, most of the games that I play normals, and I'm playing them with people that are higher ranked than myself. You know, I'm playing them with gold ones, platinums, diamond players, and I feel like I can keep up with them, even though I'm only a silver player. And I thought, maybe that's because I'm able to tap into some of the experience that these higher ranking players have got by asking them questions that other lower ranking players may not have had the opportunity to ask. So we were thinking in this video, hopefully we can convey how a diamond player thinks and their answers to some of the questions that lower ranking players might ask.
You need to make sure that you specialize in at least 2 lanes. That way when someone does call middle feed, you're able to take a different lane without a hassle. This is an issue that will not go away. I still get people in Diamond who say, if you put me in another lane other than top, I'm going to feed the enemy team. So it falls down to you to be able to adapt. If you're unable to play another lane, you're better off just taking the lead and losing a little LP. You won't lose any MMR, so if you're on a winning streak, you can continue that winning streak and just take a hit of, say, 3 LP on the first dodge. In short, no. There are many champions which are strong and easy to play, and some champions which are better than others. For example, Heimerdinger isn't worth the effort for the payoff as opposed to someone like Fizz. However, I don't believe that there's a single champion that you can pick up which will make you win all the time. That being said, I definitely support specializing in a few champions in a specific lane, as obviously the more you play a champion, the better you become at it. Before I answer this, you can't be eternally optimistic. In a lot of scenarios, these guys will lose you the game. However, there are things that you can do to mitigate this. For example, if you have a feeder and he's genuinely trying, don't hate on him. It may not be the role that he normally plays, and hating on him isn't going to make the game go any better. If you have an AFK and your team's doing well, you can remain positive, encourage them. Tell them the guys on the other team are bad, buy extra wards and make it a point of pride to win the game. The people on your team will try a lot harder for you. However, if your team's struggling right from the start and you're 4v5, know when to quit. Sometimes it's better to just get into another game than let your spirits get down on one which will definitely be a loss. Rages are most likely the ones that you'll have to deal with most commonly, and also the ones you can do the most about. If someone's raging, never rage back at them. If the rage isn't directed at you, say for example you're the support and the ADC is raging at your jungler, try to calm them down and get them to focus back on the lane. If they're raging at you, your best bet is to just mute them so that you don't compound the problem and it doesn't affect your and their game. I had this for quite a while. Sometimes it can be heavily dependent on the champion you're playing. For example, if you're playing Shen top, you shouldn't really be high in kills when it comes to teamfights. That means you're starving your carries. If you're an AP and you're 10-0, you have enough kills for the game. Try to set up some kills for other carries on the team. It's easy to shut down one player, but it's hard to shut down 2 or more. Use your strength to raise up your team rather than raise yourself even higher, because if you get caught out and die, your team's going to get steamrolled if they're weak. This depends on the current meta, but at the moment the staple bans are generally Kassadin, Vi, Elise, Nasus, and the last 2 bans of preference. Generally things like Lee Sin, Katarina, Fizz, or Thresh. This question more depends on the roles you already play. At this point, if you're looking at this video, you're most likely already level 30 and have chosen a lane that you'd prefer. I'd say that lane would be easiest. I would like to mention though that if you're below gold, while it's still possible, it's highly unlikely your ADC is going to be good enough to carry you while you're supporting. So below gold, I probably wouldn't play support. This all assumes you're solo queuing. If you're duo queuing, ADC support, if you play the roles normally, are a viable way to climb. Panic, rage quit, call mid and feed, or AFK. These are just a few of the things that you should not do. Honestly, this isn't much of a problem. If you're a top laner, pick up a jungle. They're very similar in champion picks. ADC, pick up supports. Mid, you've kind of been an oddball until Season 4, but now you can play supports as well with a lot of the same champions. Supports, pick up ADC, or if you're weird like me, pick up jungle. The point is, it gives you flexibility. You're not just going to get your role 100% of the time. Expect that you're not going to. Adapt, and you'll do well. This depends on team compositions. For example, Nasus can solo Dragon no problem when he hits 6, Fiddle and Warwick can do the same. But as a general rule, here's how I approach Dragon. If I have made mid or bot lane back, they can't contest our Dragon if my mid and bot lane comes to help me. This is because we have the number advantage. Baron is another story. The classic throw because Baron's being done at the wrong time happens all too much. When I push for Baron, it will depend on what carries we have and how fast we can drop it. But as a general rule to follow, when an inhibitor's open, Baron becomes an option. I still usually won't force it unless we're winning a lot. However, if an inhibitor's open and we just want a team fight, Baron immediately. It's basically free at that point. This depends on the phase of the game you're in. If outer turrets or even second turrets in mid are open, I'd prioritize towers. Dragons are usually a quick pickup and it's not too often you'll have a 5v5 for a dragon. But if this does happen, it will depend on whether your team is stronger than theirs at this point. If you aren't, just let dragon go, it's not worth getting aced for. If the enemy team is doing Baron, you should always contest it, even if you're just the jungler and you're there to smite steal. But if you're 5-man pushing the outer bottom turret while they're doing Baron, then it's time to FF because this game's already over. This depends on the amount of HP the tower is on and how strong you are as a team. In a lot of scenarios this will only really be the top which will have to make this decision as they're generally the split pushers of the game. Play one that you can play really well. If you learn champions that are OP, that's great, you fulfill both requirements. But I wouldn't bother learning champions specifically to fit a team composition. You're doing solo queue, not 5v5s or 3v3s. This comes down to personal preference as well as how strong each of the lanes are doing. For example, if mid's steamrolling, I like to only gank mid once to solidify the win and get me ahead, and then I'll focus on top or bot lane. But it depends how well the enemy bot lane is warding. Start game, mid is the easiest to gank and then rotate top. Bot will always have wards start game whether they're good or bad players. Mid lane will always have one ward and 6 different paths that you can gank from. So unless you're a really slow jungler, in which case I suggest hitting top lane, then go mid. But all these choices depend on the champion you pick and whether you need to worry about their jungler counter ganking. Play the ones which you feel comfortable with. The meta changes from time to time. Picking up champions just because they're currently OP is not going to make you good at the game, even if it does give you short-term gains in LP. If they buff Riven because he's OP for the space of a month, don't think you're going to go from bronze to diamond in that time, and when he is nerfed, it's possible you can drop out of leagues now. So play things that suit your playstyle. If you play aggressive, pick up someone like Lee Sin. If you play passive, pay something like Nasus over Riven. Keep trying. Sometimes you get ignored and there isn't much you can do about it. If they're completely ignorant of what you're doing, wait for them to do something and then support them. Sometimes it's okay when you're jungling to come in halfway through a fight in mid and get a kill or assist. You can still capitalize on the things that they do even if you're not communicating with them. Definitely not. Everyone in their league career at some point has seen this in their chat box. We always go in one at a time and die. This is exactly what is meant by following teammates into a bad decision, and it happens all the time in every league. I'll admit I sometimes do it too. When you know you're fed and you think you can save someone and get out, in most cases you're better off just letting that person die, respawn, and then have a normal 5v5 rather than a disjointed team fight. Communicate with them and tell them not to go in. Backping and get yourself out there as well. Don't hang around or someone might take it as you're going to engage.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Flarvain and I are going to try and make this into a series, so if you guys have any questions that you want answered or if there's any tips that you want, please post them in the comments below and we'll try and get to them and put them in our next video. As another note guys, there's a small group called Blamethelag. They're hosting tournaments with prize pools starting from about $50 and they will be growing, so please, if you want to check that out, go to the description below and there should be a link to their site. And finally, don't forget to like if you liked the video and subscribe to us if you want to see more.